The Book of Genesis Part 34. The Book of Genesis Part 34. James Gunn. The lesson that we must learn from chapter 21 is one regarding legal bondage and Christian liberty. In the events of history recorded in this passage, our attention is diverted from Abraham and focused upon Isaac. The birth of Isaac may be considered in two different ways: first, as only a domestic event; second, as an allegory in doctrine. The domestic event. At long last, God fulfills his promise. The Lord visited Sarah, as he had said. Of this event we read, Abraham considered not his own body now dead, Romans 4 verse 19. The Revised Version omits the negative in this passage, and reads, he considered his own body now dead, and implies that the faith of Abraham was such that, when he thought on the subject of his age and circumstances, he disregarded his physical condition and trusted implicitly in God. The proud parents named the babe Isaac, laughing. Here Sarah laughs in satisfaction and joy. As she did so, undoubtedly, she recalled how earlier she had laughed in incredulity and fear, Genesis 18 verse 13. The period, eventually, came in which Isaac was to be weaned. This, according to Eastern custom, was much later than in Western lands. Isaac probably was 3 or 4 years old at the time, his half-brother being about 17. Ishmael's action and attitude towards Isaac on this occasion were promptly noticed by Sarah, and she demanded that Hagar, the bondwoman, and her son be expelled from the household. It is not at all difficult to sense the feelings of Abraham, nor is it difficult to imagine what his action otherwise might have been had God not said to him, "Let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman, in all that Sarah hath said unto thee hearken to her voice." Throughout this entire domestic conflict, Abraham had the inward conviction that God would work out his own purposes. He, Abraham, had failed in regard to Hagar, and under divine government had to suffer. Nevertheless, he realized that under divine grace God would accomplish his own plans. In Isaac he saw the development of God's purposes, the fruition of faith, and the consummation of hope. Like many family affairs recounted in the Old Testament, this one emphasizes the faithfulness of God in recompensing faith, and in forgiving failure. The allegory in doctrine. Of these two events in Abraham's life, we read the New Testament commentary, which things are an allegory, for these are the two covenants, the one from the Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, which is Agar, Galatians 4 verse 24. In this portion of his word, God uses the principle of contrast to teach sound doctrine: Ishmael and Isaac, Mount Sinai and Mount Zion, Jerusalem on earth and Jerusalem which is from above. In Abraham's two sons, the one after the flesh and the other by special promise, we have revealed the gospel system of free and sovereign grace over against the legal system that results in bondage. Here, then, we have illustrated the principle of salvation by human effort and salvation by divine favor. By contrasting certain details relative to the two sons, we learn more of the Christian's heritage under grace. Their privilege: Isaac was born in freedom, Ishmael in bondage. In the United States, before the Civil War of 1861-65, it was the law that every child born to a slave mother was himself a slave. The father might be a freeman, but the status of the child was determined by that of the mother, rather than by that of the father. Apparently, this also was true in the days of the patriarchs. Isaac enjoyed security, but Ishmael was merely tolerated in Abraham's household. How near is the position of the Christian in Christ? The Spirit by the Apostle tells us of the coming of Christ to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. And because ye are sons, God hath sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son, and if a son, then an heir of God through Christ, Galatians 4 verses 5-7. Their permanency: Isaac remained within the household forever, but Ishmael was cast out. We, too, now experience an eternal relationship to God. Ye are all the children of God by faith in Christ Jesus. For as many of you as have been baptized into Christ have put on Christ. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus. And if ye be Christ's, then are ye Abraham's seed, and heirs according to the promise, Galatians 3 verses 26-29. Their prospects, Sarah said to Abraham, "Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even Isaac." Genesis 21 verse 10. What a foreshadowing we have here of the glorious truth expressed in the New Testament. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God, and if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. Rom 8 hours 16 minutes and 17 seconds. The law, then, leads only into bondage, but grace into an eternity of blessing, joy, and liberty.